Secondly, teaching. I'll just take one thing about human nature. People on the media say how amazing it is that somebody should take a gun and walk into a school and shoot everybody down that they could. How amazing. The Bible would not be surprised. Because the Bible tells us in Genesis 1, 2 and 3 about the nature of each one of us. One, we are of the earth. He made us out of the dust of the ground. Two, we are made, every one of us, in the image of God. Now, I could spend the next hour talking about what that means, but there is something of God in every one of us. There is something special about every one of us. We are, yes, we are ordinary, we are made of the dust of the ground, but there is something, wow, the X factor. Every one of us is made in the image of God. And then the third thing that Genesis 1 to 3 tells us is that we are all sinners. We have fallen. Now, if you think about that, our essence is that we are in the image of God. We learnt to sin. Being a sinner is not our basic essence. You understand that? Our basic essence is of the earth and in the image of God. In not being a sinner. But we took that on. The fall, Adam and Eve. Now, I think that's wonderful. Because God in his love and grace sent a rescuer to save us from the sin. Being nasty, which every one of us is, aren't we? Someone spoke about rats in the cellar. And we know that even though we may be very nice, there's something nasty about us. But that can be dealt with by Jesus Christ. And the Bible makes us wise for salvation. Now, this is teaching. And the Bible tells us this. This is a great encouragement, I feel. Then thirdly, rebuking. Someone said a minister's job is to comfort the afflicted and to afflict the comfortable. And rebuking is part of this. There's great comfort in the Bible. But there is rebuking. It shows us where we are going wrong. There are warnings. There are dangers pointed out. The Ten Commandments. When I was in England, I used to go to a school of boys. And they had so many boys, I had 1,600 boys. And the morning assembly was on Monday and Tuesday, and I would speak. And so you'd have the same thing, 800 at one session and 800 at the next. I was told that once there'd been a lot of stealing going on in the school. And for the morning assembly, one of the teachers went up into the front, and normally they had a long Bible reading. Normally they had about 5-minute address, but he just leaned. Thou shalt not steal. He sat down. And the Bible will rebuke us. The great prophets. Reading Amos again this week. In Amos, the merchants who were cheating people. In chapter 8, verse 5, they are boosting the price. Sound familiar? They are skimping the measure. They are cheating with dishonest scales. This is long before a current affair. Thank you. The Bible rebukes. There's a tremendous passage, isn't there? Amos 5, verse 24. Let justice roll on like a river, righteousness like a never-failing stream. Go home and look at some of those great prophets. This is Hosea, chapter 4, verses 1 to 3. Hear the word of the Lord, because the Lord has a charge, a rebuke to bring against you who live in the land. There is no faithfulness, no love, no acknowledgement of God in the land. There is only cursing, lying, and murder, stealing and adultery. They break all bounds, and bloodshed follows bloodshed. Because of this, the land mourns, and all who live in it waste away. The beasts of the field and the birds of the air and the fish of the sea are dying. Talk about up to date. This is before the Greens. The Bible is sensitive to our environment. So there is that rebuking. Number 4, there is correcting. Depends what kind of clock you've got. We've got 2 clocks in our kitchen, and I had a look at them again. But we did used to have a clock years ago. We got, a $15 clock, in the kitchen sort of thing. And but the better clocks, on the back, there used to be a plus and minus, so that when your clock was gaining a little bit or losing a little bit, you would adjust that little corrector. I always used to get it wrong, Does plus mean it's going too fast, or does it mean that you need to make it faster? But that's a little complication, isn't it? And of course, with the pendulum clock, it's the length of the pendulum, and you change the pendulum to get and you can get the clock as accurate as possible. I think time is based on the vibrations of a crystal. Get perfect time. But you try and get this corrector, and that's what the Bible does. All over the world, millions, billions of people are gathering like you to come to church to hear some preacher say, you've got to get right. You're going astray. This is the right path. Get it clear. And so we come to church and we get a little adjustment in our thinking, in our behavior, in what we are, so that we may be more godly and better citizens and so on.